Welcome to The Spread. I know what you're thinking. Hasn't it been far too long since the SACCR was brought up in this show? Well, if that's the case, I'm pleased to indulge you. Because after isolating myself in a dark basement for a week doing nothing but reading about banking regulations, I'm pleased to say that I now have an extremely baseline understanding of the SACCR. Last week, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, and the FDIC, also known as the banking regulatory agencies with the three sexiest names in the business, jointly announced a final ruling on how banking organizations will be required to measure counterparty credit risk for derivatives contracts with listed options. In other words, the debate is over. King CEM is dead. Long live King SACCR. For those who are unfamiliar with the words coming out of my mouth, or those who would like a brief refresher, the CEM was the standardized approach for measuring counterparty credit risk for banks and other financial institutions. In other words, it was a rule that was used to model a bank's risk exposure to financial contracts so that they know how much capital they needed to allocate to cover their butts should the you-know-what hit the fan. The SACCR is a different standardized approach, and now it's the standardized approach for banks that own assets worth more than $250 billion combined, or $10 billion worth of total foreign exposure. Smaller banks get the option to subscribe to it voluntarily, though, no pun intended. The three regulatory agencies originally released the proposal more than a year ago, but revised it in the final ruling after considering feedback from the public. Aw, don't you just love it when regulators and the regulated get along? Just warms my cold, dead heart. Anyway, one more big piece of news before I go back to poring over option stories and avoiding the sun for another week. MIAX, yet again, had big news. They launched futures trading for their beloved Spikes Index with the Minneapolis Grain Exchange on the CME's Globex platform. So now they have another weapon in their arsenal in their nascent competition with SIBO over volatility trading dominance. That about does it for this week, as well as next week. Since it's Thanksgiving, we'll be occupied spending time with our loved ones and desperately hoping our food comas wear off before Black Friday. Have a holly jolly Thanksgiving, I guess. And I'll see you in December.